Close the door to the control room, rookie. Leave that operations manual on the table and sit down. You've been assigned to my night shift, and the first thing you need to learn is that little rulebook isn't going to save you when the suits upstairs decide to play God with physics. Today I am going to give you your first lesson in corporate survival. I'm going to tell you why the VIP area of this aquarium has smelled like damp mildew for 2 years, and how an idiot with a marketing degree turned Europe's most advanced marine habitat into a $20 million death trap. Welcome to the Oceanus Mega-Aquarium. Our absolute pride and joy is the Abyssal Trench. It is a titanic tank containing 10 million gallons of freezing saltwater. Inside there, we have deep-sea ecosystems, tiger sharks, and giant manta rays. To let the public see this monster, engineering built a 250-foot underwater observation tunnel that cuts straight through the bottom of the tank. But water is heavy. 10 million gallons crushing down on a glass tunnel would turn it to dust. That's why the tunnel isn't glass, it is 2-foot-thick industrial acrylic. And to prevent the immense pressure from warping the acrylic and snapping it, the tunnel uses a double-hull design. Between the outer acrylic touching the ocean and the inner glass where people walk, there is a chamber filled with a pressurized, transparent fluid. We call it the water jacket. Its sole purpose in this life is to push outward, actively counteracting the crushing weight of the ocean pushing inward. It's pure hydrostatic equilibrium physics. As long as that water jacket is full and pressurized, the tunnel is indestructible. But of course, that fluid creates a very slight optical refraction. A tiny visual distortion if you look out of the corner of your eye. To the marine biologists and to me, that is the small price we pay to not be crushed to death. But 2 years ago, the board of directors hired Leo as the new director of VIP experiences. Leo came from the world of fashion shows and luxury nightclubs. To him, the Abyssal Trench wasn't a marvel of modern science, it was just the perfect background for his millionaire clients' Instagram photos. The week of the aquarium's 10th anniversary arrived. Leo had organized an exclusive gala event called Dinner Under the Abyss. He had closed down the submarine tunnel to set up tables with silk tablecloths, silver cutlery, and Michelin star catering. Influencers, politicians, and A-list celebrities were coming. It was the afternoon before the event. I was up on the maintenance catwalk, checking the pressurization pumps for the water jacket, when Leo showed up. He was wearing Italian leather shoes that slipped on the wet grated floor, and he was staring down through the tunnel with a grimace of pure disgust. "Chief engineer," he called out, snapping his fingers to get my attention as if I were a waiter. "I brought the photographers in to do lighting tests and they're telling me the photos are coming out warped. That liquid you have between the glass panes is making the guests' faces look weird in the corners. It is unacceptable. High society magazines are going to cover this event. I want 4K clarity, absolute sharpness. Open the purge valves and drain that water jacket right now. I want the tunnel completely hollow so the glass is invisible." Rookie, when I heard that, I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I climbed down from the catwalk and stood right in front of him, trying very hard not to grab him by the lapels of his expensive suit. "Leo, that is structural manslaughter," I told him, dropping my voice so it sounded like a deadly threat. "That fluid isn't coolant. It is hydrostatic counterpressure. There are 40,000 tons of salt water pushing that acrylic inward. If I empty the compensation chamber, the acrylic will have to support the entire weight of the ocean all by itself. It will bend. There will be microfractures, and when the material reaches its elastic limit, the tunnel will implode. You will drown 300 people and destroy a $20 million tank for a damn photo." Leo let out a muffled, patronizing little laugh, shaking his head with that specific corporate blindness of people who have never had to get their hands dirty. "Always the same sci-fi dramas with you maintenance guys," he sighed, inspecting his fingernails. "It's 2 feet of solid plastic, for God's sake. I've seen videos of trucks driving over acrylic without it breaking. It's not going to break over a little water. I have been organizing this gala for 6 months, and I am not going to let your technical paranoia ruin the aesthetic of the night. This is a direct order from the Experience Directorate. Either you drain that liquid and give me a perfect view, or I call the general manager, fire you for gross insubordination the day before the event, and bring in a plumber who knows how to open a simple valve." Listen closely, rookie. In this world, water and pressure do not negotiate with event directors. I knew empirically that Leo had just signed the death warrant for his own luxury gala, but since my salary and my engineering license were on the line, I used the most devastating weapon we have, the digital maintenance log. Under my professional responsibility, I refused to depressurize the double-hull Leo, I answered with robotic coldness, pointing to the control terminal on the wall. "But since you hold the executive rank over the event facilities, you are going to execute the override in the system yourself." I handed him my industrial tablet. You will log in with your fingerprint. You will draft a direct order to purge the hydrostatic counterpressure fluid. You will leave a written record stating that you formally reject my warning regarding the warping of the acrylic, the crush implosion, and the deadly risk to the guests. And you will sign that you assume, on a legal, criminal, and financial level, absolute responsibility for any structural damage and the total collapse of the 10-million-gallon tank. Leo rolled his eyes, huffing like a spoiled teenager. If your cowardly bureaucracy makes you sleep better at night, I'll sign it, he declared. He pressed his thumb onto the reader, drafted the suicidal order while completely ignoring the red strobe lights flashing on the screen, and validated the purge. There you go. Now, dry out that tunnel and let me work. I complied with the order. I hit the purge button. Deep in the bowels of the aquarium, the massive pumps roared in reverse. Thousands of gallons of the protective fluid began draining into the reserve tanks. The 10-million-gallon beast had just lost its shield. The night of the gala arrived. The underwater tunnel looked like a set from a James Bond movie. 300 high society guests strolled around in tuxedos and evening gowns, sipping French champagne under dim, elegant lighting, while tiger sharks glided silently overhead. The view was, indeed, crystal clear. Perfect. But I wasn't looking at the expensive dresses. I was locked right here in this control room, sweating cold, staring at the structural tension meters for the acrylic. The moment we emptied the water jacket, the acrylic had to take on the full weight. The sensors went from green to yellow, and then to a flashing, urgent red. The material was bowing inward, millimeter by millimeter. Halfway through the dinner service, while a live string quartet played classical music, physics came to claim what was hers. 150 feet down, the relentless, crushing pressure found the weakest point in titanium joint number 4. The sound wasn't like a window breaking. It was a deep, muffled boom, like a naval cannon firing underwater. Boom. The music stopped dead. The guests looked up, absolutely terrified. Fortunately, 2-foot-thick acrylic is too massive to shatter like regular glass. It didn't fully implode. But the pressure was so overwhelming that the heavy steel joint burst open, creating a 1-inch wide crack running along the ceiling of the tunnel. 40,000 tons of pressure shoved the freezing salt water through that crack. The water didn't just leak. It shot inward like a hyper-pressurized geyser, a high-pressure water blade that sliced right through the air of the tunnel. The direct impact hit the head table. Silk tablecloths flew into the air, crystal glasses shattered, and the freezing water swept the elite guests away as if they were ragdolls. The panic was apocalyptic. Celebrities and politicians were running and screaming, slipping on the flooded floor, losing their high heels, as the tunnel rapidly began to fill with seawater. The emergency safety system immediately detected the massive flood and dropped the heavy watertight bulkheads at both ends of the tunnel, sealing off the abyssal trench. The guests managed to scramble out just in time, soaked to the bone, bruised, and in a state of absolute shock. But the gala event was over. Europe's most expensive observation tunnel was flooded, cracked, and completely useless. $20 million in infrastructure, totally ruined in a single night just for a sharp photograph. Leo was paralyzed in the aquarium's main lobby, completely soaked, his $1,000 suit plastered to his skin. He was shivering uncontrollably, watching the emergency medical teams treat billionaires for hypothermia. He had just realized that his aesthetic whim had caused the biggest structural and public relations disaster in the country. An hour later, the aquarium's general manager and his legal team came sprinting through the lobby, pushing their way past the ambulances. His face was red with murderous fury. Leo, cornered and crying out of pure panic, reacted the way office rats always react. The joints were rotten. Leo screamed hysterically, pointing at me while the security guards locked down the area. The engineer didn't do the maintenance. The acrylic gave way because of him. I just asked him to clean the glass and he collapsed the tunnel. The general manager glared at me, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. I maintained a tomb-like calm. I hooked my tablet up to the lobby's main information projector and displayed the unalterable SCADA system log. There was his corporate death warrant. Huge, glowing letters projected in front of the entire board of directors. Experienced directorate order. Total purge of the hydrostatic counterpressure fluid. Explicit rejection of the technical warning regarding acrylic warping, crush implosion, and deadly risk. Legal, criminal, and financial assumption of absolute responsibility for structural damage and tank collapse. And right below it, Leo's biometric thumbprint and unalterable encrypted code. The general manager read the text. The silence in the lobby was only broken by the sound of the ambulance sirens outside. "Leo," hissed the manager, with a voice so loaded with venom that it froze the executive's blood. "You ignored the most basic laws of marine physics out of the absolute imbecility of wanting a photo without glare. You just cost us $20 million in structural damage, you destroyed our global reputation, and we are facing multi-million-dollar lawsuits from our most powerful guests. You are fired. Right this second. He turned to the corporate lawyers. Open a civil and criminal lawsuit immediately for criminal negligence and destruction of property. I want you to garnish everything down to his shirt to pay for the deep-sea divers who are going to have to fix this from the outside. Security dragged Leo away, screaming and crying, ruined for the rest of his life and facing serious prison time. It took us months to drain the tunnel, bring in maritime cranes, and replace the titanium joints. I was promoted to director of aquarium operations. And nowadays, rookie, I guarantee you that if any executive ever complains that the glass looks a little distorted, I don't even bother answering, I just point them to the door. That is your lesson for today. Never argue with the ocean, and never let an idiot push a button without making them sign for it first. If you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe for more.